Adrian says, I think Frankie Fihn has a training with a sample Loom video. Does anyone know which one it is? I can't find it. I'm sure I own it. I spent over an hour trying because I realized I probably should just ask. Rebecca. She says, all right, Rebecca. She says, if you had to start your agency again from scratch with $0, what's the first thing you would do? Gabe says, ever gotten a horrible cold DM from someone with an offer? If it was bad, did you help fix it or tell them to pound sand?
Yo, it's Frankie Fihn. Beach mode engaged. Looms loaded, AI's humming. Let's go!
Welcome back, everybody, to another Agency Owners Weekly Q&A, where you guys are asking smart questions, and I'm Frankie Fihn. I'm the degenerate who tries his best to answer. For those of you guys who don't know me already, I built 3 of my own agencies over the last 20 years, and I've written a few books on it, and I've helped thousands of people out there to do this cool stuff. So just a quick little announcement before we get rocking and rolling. I have a tool for you guys to talk about working together. For those of you guys who would like some additional help, support, tools, resources, I've been working on trying really to systematize everything about growing an agency and build tools so that whatever you guys are trying to do at any level, I got you covered. So I have a big library of stuff. So if you talk to our AI assistant, it'll tell you which book in the library would be most useful to you. When I say book, I mean really more like tools, but it's kind of like a digital library that'll point you to the best resource. So try it out if you have not already. And if you tried it before, try it again because I made some updates. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff with the man they call the man, His Holiness, the dude. The best looking motherfucker on the planet. 170 pounds of pure steel and sex appeal. It's Frankie Fihn coming at you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. All right. Too much wrestling in my childhood. You know what's funny, actually? I don't know if any of you guys can relate. I haven't watched wrestling in like 20 years. It's like maybe longer. It's not interesting to me now. If you get some Stone Cold Steve Austin and the glass shatters and I see somebody get a stunner. There was a probably like a 2-3 year period in high school where I remember Stone Cold Steve Austin was so big that every day in high school I saw at least one kid get a stunner, usually in the hallway. Like, and everybody would laugh, gotcha! And then they'd shoot the finger because that's what Austin did. Anyways, let's get into the questions. Adrian says, I think Frankie Fihn has a training with a sample Loom video. Does anyone know which one it is? I can't find it. I'm sure I own it. I spent over an hour trying because I realized I probably should just ask. Adrian, I'm actually super protective over example Loom videos, and I'll tell you why. I've been doing this almost 20 years, and I've been ripped off a lot. And so I can actually remember people, sometimes stealing my shit word for word for word. And you're like, what? And giving themselves the credit. So Loom videos are a dangerous weapon in the wrong person's hands. For those of you guys not familiar with the question he's asking, for the last 5 years, we have not done traditional sales calls. And I sell a lot of things really with Loom videos and Google Docs. And there's a real magic that's happened since we've done that, which is... like mostly that like our sales team works 24/7. Like people buy shit. I mean, we have other issues that sometimes slowing down enrollment at certain times and stuff like that can be challenging. But, like if you don't want to do salespeople and you don't want to do sales calls, the good news is your clients don't want to either. So around 3 years ago, I want to call it, I did a training video on YouTube walking anybody through the format. And really the format, just so you guys know what a Loom video or a Google Doc is, if you do like 1,000 plus sales calls, even though in the beginning they feel really hard, eventually you can finish people's sentences, like literally finish their sentences. And so what happens is you kind of know what they're asking you even before they ask it. And they all ask the same kind of questions in the same kind of order. So one of the things I did is I realized if you preemptively answered the questions they were going to ask you and give them the relevant information they want to know, including the one everybody hides behind, which is, how much is this thing, right? Everybody thinks you can't just tell somebody, here's how much it is, motherfucker, and you absolutely can tell them, here's how much it is, motherfucker, and like adults, they can decide whether or not to buy it. I think the biggest reason, by the way, as a little aside, most people don't do that is because they don't know how to present the price properly. Anyways, coming back to the whole like Loom video structure, and then the next piece I realized is that if you could show somebody visually what you're going to do instead of answering it with questions, and this is from a guy who grew up watching too many infomercials. Like we only had so many stations that came in. We had the bunny ears, and I remember when we got cable, I found infomercials just fascinating. If you guys ever have seen an infomercial, they always have a demonstration. Like if they're selling a vacuum cleaner, they don't just say, these are awesome vacuums, they're quality. They don't just go with the trust us, bro, because they know people don't trust them. And so they'll take like road tar and cigarettes and ashes and dump it on the carpet, and then they'll vacuum it up and go, does your vacuum cleaner do that? Didn't think so, right? And so there's always a demonstration, because they know if they show people a demonstration visually, they'll just get it a lot faster and they'll be more likely to buy. So the same thing is true with Loom videos. I realize if you make a sales presentation visual and you show people what it is you're actually going to do for them, like with visuals they can understand, then they're like far more likely to buy as well. So for those of you guys who are interested in doing that, there's two ways you can check that out. One is I laid out the free training on our YouTube channel, Beyond Agency Profits. Just type in Loom training. It's got it's been viewed thousands of times, and I wouldn't say every day, but like probably like 5-10 times a week I get a message from somebody who's like, holy shit, it worked, I closed a thing in video, that's amazing. Or they still do a sales call, and they get on the sales call, and instead of it being like this hour-long like convince me why I should work with you, the person's like, hey, I watched your video, I just got a question, how do we get started? And that's where you want to be. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, it's totally for free on YouTube. And if you're interested in getting some help, meaning like you want my eyes to help you tighten your presentation, whatever, we have a program for that. You can check out, just talk to my AI assistant over there and ask him about it. Say, tell me about the Loom training we got, and you can get Frankie's help in that. And if you ever want to not need salespeople ever again, as long as you live, and you want a 24/7, 365 digital beast instead, check that out. But anyways, Adrian, the format, coming back to this, kind of reining this in, really I found there's 5 basic questions people want to know. They want to know, what is this thing going to do for me? And they ask it all kinds of different ways. Can you help with this? Tell me what you guys do. Like, there's all kinds of different things they say. And then if you show them something that they actually want, they will typically say, will that work for me in my situation? Like they're far more interested in, we're having it work for them than what you've done for other people. Third thing they want to know is, and this is the piece missing from most people's presentation, is how does it actually work? Like, what's going to actually get done here? The fourth is the one everybody hides behind. How much is it? And then the last question is, we forget that they don't know how to buy it, right? So they go, how do I get started? Do I give you my credit card? Do I go to a sign-up page? Do I use PayPal? Do you send me an invoice? How does this work, right? So all we're really doing in a Loom video is just preemptively answering the questions they were going to ask. And so it usually does one of 2 things. Actually, one of 3 things. One is people say yes and they just pay you. They say no, usually price related, because they can't afford it. And so you just saved yourself an hour of talking to somebody who can't afford it. And then there is the middle piece, where sometimes they have a question or two. And that means the video answered 90 to 95% of their questions, but they still have one more to be answered. And that's typically it. It's usually they either buy it from you, they say, I got a question, or you never hear from them again. And all 3 of those are better than doing sales calls, by the way. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox about that. But if you guys want to, check that baby out. Also, I'm just throwing it out there that should be permanently etched that Facebook is doing that thing where I don't see your comments, I don't see your questions, I don't see anything you guys are posting till after the fact. So I'm not ignoring you guys if you're saying cool shit in the comments right now. All right, our man Yvonne says, I have a question for anyone that has been around this kind of biz for a while. I'm in the middle of a deal talking with the owner of a boxing gym, but this owner and the overall vibe is a little weird to me. The deal I presented was me creating a new offer for their gym, running the ads for it, implementing automations for reminders for the new leads, AI to attend them at first, and also me providing PDFs to their front desk staff for pitching that offer. And I didn't pitch a retainer. Instead, I put on the table that my payment would be 30% of the results that I offer. That way, no risk for them, only pay after results, and just win-win. But I saw a couple of red flags on the meeting. They do have an internet marketing team, but the owner stopped the social media work and overall digital work because, in his words, it made no difference if they implemented or not. 2, they told me that when they did the meta campaigns, they would go from 30 new signups to 50 new signups monthly, which makes me question, why would they stop it then? I suggested to spend around $300 per month to test stuff out, and they said it was way more than that they have spent in the past in ads. They only spent like $120 per month before. They said 30% seemed like a lot, but then I think if 30% of something that's new coming in and I'm providing all the tools to fulfillment, the money is not in their pocket at the moment. And the owner asked me to make a projection with precise numbers on how much they would need to spend and how much is going to be the ROI. I asked for access to their meta campaigns to have some kind of data to play with, but I'm still waiting. From the get-go, it seemed to be like there was a lot of greediness on the overall vibe of the deal and meeting. And even though there was a marketing team before, I felt like I got to convince them that marketing works still, but wanted to consult with other people who might have had encountered this kind of character before and tell me, is it common to encounter this kind of situations, or is it just a bad deal overall? Because I've had clients who just say, all right, let's do it, without a bunch of ways to hold tight the ad spend or money on the deal. Thanks in advance for the answer. Anything helps. All right, Yvonne. So there's a lot going on there to unpack, just so you know. Firstly, you are doing what I would call a revenue share deal or partnership deal. For those of you guys who've never done this, I know everybody in our industry says, don't do revenue shares, don't deal partnerships. I'm here to tell you they're all fucking wrong. That just means they don't know how to do them or who to pick. Because if you know how to do them or how to pick, like, you know, I think our dear friend Tony T, who's done like between $5 and $10 million on revenue shares over the last couple of years, and he has less than 5 clients at any given time. You know, show me other people that are doing millions of dollars with such a small client roster. So the magic of partnerships is you get a much higher share of the upside. Now the downside of them is very simple, is you can do a lot of work and not get paid. So you have to be very careful about choosing them. So here's what I'm going to tell you something about that I wish I knew about these revenue share deals / partnerships. Is they work best for people that are already crushing it. They work the least for people who need it the most. So in this case, you mentioned a bunch of red flags, and they're all over the place. They're not spending money on ads. They're very hesitant to do it. Your fee is a lot. All of those things. Like, the chances of you getting paid consistently on this deal are somewhere between what I would call slim and none. Maybe not. I wouldn't rule it out as impossible. But this is when people ask me questions like, I need an airtight contract. No, you don't. You just got to pick a better partner. In fact, the right partners, it's usually they'll pay you proactively without you even having to ask or do shit or anything like that. So anyway, so who makes for the right partner? It's really the people who are crushing it. Like, they're already doing well without you. And a couple of things. One, like as you mentioned, one of the things is almost always they're spending money on ads. So the idea that they could spend money and get a return, like it's already something that they're doing. They don't need to be convinced to do it. Typically, their offers work, right? Like, one of the things with this gym that you mentioned is their offer probably does not work. And so you're going to have to figure that out. If you already have a working offer that you can bring in, that might be a different deal. But more than likely, you're going to have to figure that out. And like, do you really want to iron out their entire sales process, which again is probably non-existent if they're at like 30 members a month or whatever. Okay. So for example, I'll give you like my favorite story of making a mistake. So we kind of, Dan and I, this is, I want to say, I don't know, 2012 to 2013, somewhere in there. Dan came to me with the idea. The bane of our existence really was at that point in life selling SEO and having to convince clients. And Dan said to me, we know how to build websites and we know how to rank them. Why don't we just build websites and rank them? And then when we start getting phone calls, we'll sell the phone calls instead of saying like, hey, hire me and I'll get you to page 1. We just go, hey, we got people calling about plumbing jobs. Do you want those phone calls, kind of thing? And Dan and I eventually settled on the roofing niche. And so this kind of put us into a little bit of the partnership because, pay-per lead is kind of what we're doing. Rank and Rent has a lot of similarities with partnerships. And I remember one of the first things we did is we got a roofer named Eddie. And so we were running these ads, and they said something like 5-star roofing, like premium service, and it had lots of nice pictures and shit like that, and had 5-star reviews that weren't real, by the way. Don't recommend doing that, but ours weren't real. Anyway, so I remember we generated a phone call. It went to this roofer named Eddie, and like we were using Twilio, and I could hear all the call recordings. And Dan calls me up. He's like, "Frankie, you got to listen to this recording." No, just whatever you're doing, drop it. And I come listen to this call, and it starts like this: Eddie's wife picks up the phone. Now the person in their mind has landed on a website, 5-star premium roofing, picks up the phone to call the premium roofing company, and on the other side is Eddie's wife, who goes, "Hello, hello," and the guy's like, "Yeah, is this 5-star roofing?" And she proceeds to yell at her husband, Eddie, who's the roofer, and says, "Eddie, come pick up the fucking phone!" And the next 7 minutes of that call recorder are them fighting. And be like, "Bitch, you crazy! You crazy as motherfucking bitch! You crazy! Bitch, fucking go to hell, bitch!" And then he picks up the phone, he's like, yeah, this is Eddie. And the guy says, "Yeah, is this 5-star roofing?" He's like, yeah, you need a roof, and I'll come give you a quote. And what I didn't realize, and by the way, we never really made the Rank and Rent click, and I'll tell you the biggest reason we never made it click, because I didn't realize you have the same challenge you have in the retainer model, you have the same challenge in a revenue share, and you have the same challenge in Rank and Rent, is you have to know how to pick the ideal fits. Now let's talk about who are actually the ideal fits, because Dan ended up getting a roofer later that he did a partnership, a big one with like $300 million partnership. And the guy had 40 different crews across 3 states, and he pulled up to a physical meeting. He was local to Dan. He pulled up to meet him, and he said he pulled up in a McLaren F1, which is the most expensive production car in the world at the time, or the fastest production car in the world, not the most expensive. It's $1 million car. He says he reaches in his Gucci bag, he pulls out 10 grand, slaps it on the table, and folds his arm and looks at Dan and says, "Okay, I came here to spend money. What's it going to cost to get you?" Now, that guy, the reason he made an awesome partnership, besides the fact that he had money to pay Dan, was the fact that they actually had a sales process in order. So all of their trucks were branded. Their guys had collar shirts. They had a CRM to track it all. They followed up with leads. They gave formal written estimates to people, so they knew there were no surprise expenses. They had a fucking sales process. And so one of the reasons Dan was able to make that partnership work is they had all the pieces he needs as a partner. So this is my way of saying, if you want to do the partnership deal, I'm all for it, but you have to level up your thinking about who you actually think you're going after. You're more actually going after the gym with like, we're so full and now we want to sell our higher end classes kind of thing, or we got 7 locations that we're trying to expand to an 8th, and we need to do that. That's actually more your target fit. So that's my way of saying, I know it sucks when you get like you found like you had a deal and it's exciting, but I would probably avoid that person in general. The other thing you can do, by the way, is Tony T. For those of you guys who never read his book, Deals Over Clients, which I suggest you grab on Amazon. But he has a thing he calls the toll booth position. And the toll booth position is really simple. It's like if you control the digital assets, then you control the relationship. And this is just protection against getting screwed. Like control sounds like, like some evil billionaire takeover plot. But in reality, so I think Alana, she for a lot of years, had yoga studio owners and tried generating leads and they couldn't close it. And then she eventually just figured out, as we've mentioned many times, it can be sold on a website. So what she did is she started collecting the money for the clients and, controlling the sales page and controlling the sign-up process. And now she's the one paying her clients, right? So it would be impossible for the client to screw them because Lana can, turn off the payments, right? So that's the other thing. If you're going to do those kind of deals, at the very least, make sure you have a toll booth position. But I'd probably tell you, this red flag client, you should probably run. I know that's kind of a little disappointing when you feel like you got a deal, but But I'm telling you, you'll save yourself mountains of headaches later for somebody who's probably never going to pay you, who's going to and blame you for their broken sales process, which I can promise you, if they only got 30 people at their gym, they surely have, lots of holes in the bucket. Rebecca, she says, all right, Rebecca, she says, if you had to start your agency again from scratch with $0, what's the first thing you would do? So I know we got people here that are all over the spectrum. Like we got folks doing $100 million a year with agencies, but we also got lots of folks starting out. For those of you guys who are starting out, let me tell you a couple of the common mistakes. And I want you guys to just throw this in the category of don't do these things, because I see them all the time from people who are like broke and stuck. So thing number one is they try and start with the tool, the system, or the process, and then figure out how to sell it. So like, hey, I'm going to get a white label SEO provider and I'm going to go sell SEO. Or, I'm going to create a go high level SaaS and I'm going to go sell a SaaS. Or, you know what? I think I could do Facebook ads. I'm going to try and sell somebody on Facebook ads. Or I'm going to sell websites. And I'll tell you why that's an issue. Because you're missing this whole other piece called there is a market out there of people. And chances are if you start with the thing, you're going to create something that nobody wants. Almost always, right? Like nobody's waking up in a cold sweat and saying, I need another web designer. I need another white label SEO provider, right? In my world. So the first thing to do, and this is a decision that trips people up a lot. And, I love what our man Apul said about this. He said, I find the advice, by the way, is choose somebody, choose a niche, right? That's step one. Who are we going to do this for? And he said when he finally picked it and I showed him kind of why you pick a niche, he said, I realized I was making this choosing a spouse instead of choosing an ice cream flavor. And an ice cream flavor is like, there's lots of good flavors. You can't really go wrong. Just pick one that's more your preference. And a wife is like, if I get this wrong, like it has dire consequences for as long as I live kind of thing, right? So, choosing a niche is an ice cream flavor. And the reason is really simple. Like I was talking to somebody who is doing Facebook ad services, and it's sort of untargeted, unfocused, a little bit of a generalist. We'll take anybody who's trying to do Facebook ads. Now, the problem with this is that they have to constantly reinvent the wheel with every client. And so what you want to do is like, imagine you create an ad for a roofer and you get it working, and then you can like copy and paste basically the same fucking ad for the next roofer, and the same ad for the roofer after that, and the same ad for the... Well, you're going to scale a lot easier and better. So that's the first reason we tell you to pick an industry, but it's also because it's hard to create messaging if you don't know who you're talking to and you don't know what their problem is. So I see this all the time where people talk about their thing and nobody cares. So step one, we got to figure out who this is for. And to me, this is a 24, 48 hours decision. Like sleep on it at night and go with your best option, not a 9-month, oh my God, it's so stressful if I choose the wrong one. Okay? Second thing you have to do is boring ass market research. You have to know what problems they're trying to fix. You have to know what outcomes they're trying to create. I'll give you a simple example of how this comes up, okay? This is my favorite. Like, it's this visual. It's disgusting, but it makes the point, okay? We got a guy in our mastermind, Mike, and one of the things a plumber said to him, he said, is there any way you could get me new construction work with Google Ads? And Mike said, why? And he said, because I hate emergency work. I literally go clean shitty toilets. Some fat guy took a, steamy, nasty corn-filled shit and his toilet's overflowing. He says, but when I do new construction, there's nothing in the pipes. I could wear a suit and tie and not get dirty. And so Mike looked and pulled up the keywords and was like, yeah, we can bid on new construction kind of keywords. And so he started running ads and getting the guy new construction, and the guy was so happy. Now, if you just say what everybody else says to that person, which is we do SEO, we'll get you more people, more, right? You miss what the person actually wants, which is I don't want to get covered in shit anymore. And so Mike created a real solution to that problem. We'll just bid on these keywords that are related to new construction. That's pretty easy to do, right? And almost all of your clients are trying to get certain people more than others. And so the reason I say that is because these things come up in market research, and they really create the second step is when you do that research, almost always you're going to be in what I would call like a sub niche, where you're like, I'm the knee pain guy, or I'm the get you the motorcycle cases guy, or I'm the new construction guy, or I get you the big commercial jobs, or I get you full roofing installs, right? And it's a small little detail, but man, does that little detail make a fucking world of difference, okay? So summarize step 2 is called market research. And by the way, easiest way to do market research is to join communities where they already fucking hang out and then read for like an hour or 2 or 3. Don't go in there with a preconceived idea. Just listen to people's questions, see where they get stuck, see what they're asking for, those kind of things, and read. And by the way, there's tons of places to do that on the internet. Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit, Quora. Like, people are having real discussions. If you're trying to sell to dentists, dentists are already talking to other dentists. It's only a question of, are you listening in? All right. And then that leads me to the third piece, is only then do you come up with what's my solution going to be, right? Mike figured out it's going to be Google ads on these specific keywords that are related to new construction, right? So it's only step 3 where it even becomes about you at all, right? This is where people get this shit wrong, is they start on step 3, which is me, and my reasons for business, and I think I know how to do SEO, and maybe I could make a buck doing web design, or maybe I could make a buck doing a Go High Level SaaS. That sounds easy. You know what? I'm going to start a TikTok agency. And before you do that, you got to know who you're doing it for, and you got to know what problems they're trying to fix. And by the way, you can do that, all of what I described, in like 2-3 hours. We're not talking a lifetime. In 2-3 hours from now, you can decide on somebody and know shit tons about them by just reading questions and things that they ask. Okay? Sounds simple, but almost nobody does it in practice. Okay? Then what you want to do, like I said, is step 3 is you create an actual solution. And then step 4 is that's when you're ready to promote the ever-living fuck about it. And this is something I mentioned in a post today. I think most people dramatically underestimate how much people can see your offer. In fact, they probably don't even know you have one, right? So like, you got to get it out there some way. You got to fucking run some paid ads. You got to either do some outreach. You got to post content about it. Like, clients don't fall out of the fucking sky, but I'll tell you, you'll feel a lot better about putting yourself out there when you know what they're actually trying to do. I hear my toddlers laughing up a storm in the other room. All right. So I hope that's helpful, Rebecca, because that's where you begin the process. You decide, who am I going to do this for? Then you research. What are their problems? What are they trying to do? Then you go, hey, what do I know how to do that fixes that? Like, if I wanted to get them that specific kind of thing, would I use Facebook ads? Would I use SEO? And chances are you got a solution, by the way, but it's like a little bit of a tweak. Like, it's we got to aim at these keywords, not those keywords, right? And then the last piece is then you go distribute it and put yourself out there. And I'll tell you, this is nerve-wracking for a lot of people, because a lot of people, when they get to step 4, they don't really put themselves out there. They play the part. They pretend like updating your website where nobody's reading it is like putting yourself out there. But you got to like proactively, like I said, put ads in front of the people, or send them messages, or post content, or go network with them, right? Like, you can meet dentists face to face at the dentist conference, but like, if I want to get dentists or plumbers or whatever, like, they're not falling out of the fucking sky. So that is the roadmap to launching an agency, is like, really pick who it's for, get clear on what problems they're trying to solve, create an actual solution that's needed in the marketplace, and then go fucking promote. Anyways. Oh, by the way, for those of you guys who are interested, I did a thing called the 90-day challenge, because it was like, that was the number one question I got asked. Like, over the last, 6-7 years of doing this shit, everybody said the same thing. They said, if you were me, you're starting over, and you wanted to get to 10K a month as fast as possible, what would you do? And so I decided, after years of being asked the same question, I'm like, I'll just do it, document the process. But that's basically what I did, just so you guys know. It's like, picked a group of people, I researched their problems, I created a solution to their problem, and went out there and fucking sold it. Like, that's basically it. And obviously, like, I can do those moves kind of efficiently at this point, so I don't want you guys to compare yourselves to me. But our actual numbers, where we added, like, from a standing zero, 16,000 a month in like 26, 27 working days. So regardless of where you're at, if you added almost 20 grand this month in recurring stuff, like, I'm sure that probably wouldn't suck for the bottom line. So anyway, that's all I got on that. Rebecca, I feel like I just said a Forrest Gump line. That's all I have to say about that. That's a bad Forrest Gump impression. But it's a good redneck impression. Johnny says, if you have a prospect who is around $400,000 per revenue but never really did any paid advertising and wants to grow, they know they have to start paying for ads and marketing, what is the approximate budget they would start with to get to the 1 million? Okay, I would strongly caution you in this scenario about working with companies that know they need to advertise but have never done it, without like a serious heart-to-heart talk about, let me tell you how this shit's going to go down. Because I've heard that, at least in my target markets, many times, and those are the most timid clients in the world about advertising. And mostly because they just don't really understand the process. And I'll tell you, a big reason people get stuck on advertising in general is because they are looking for an event where a process is. So here's an event. You want to go get rich? Go play the fucking lottery. You win. Woo, I'm rich, right? That's an event, right? Not very dependable, but like most people view financial success and business success as like, it's luck. You win. You won the genetic lottery or whatever, right? Or the real lottery. But real business is process, right? You got to find a market and find a problem and go solve something and create something, go market it. And there's accounting and legal. There's all kinds of things to do, right? Sorry, let me just go back to the original question. So what I was going to say, if you got a client who's never advertised, like, one of the first things that they need to know is more than likely they have unproven offers. And what that means is when you put your shit out in the marketplace, it's almost a virtual certainty that you're going to lose money before you make it. So if in their mind it's a black and white, turn on the system and then boom, the leads just come smash you in the face. And in reality, it's like you're going to lose money and we're going to just keep trying shit and eventually we're going to have some breakthroughs. And if you're okay with like, if you like, what I would tell them is like, commit to this for at least like 6 months, at least spending this much money, even if there's no return, would you do that? And if they say no, then they're not ready to do it. And that's totally okay, by the way. You don't need every client. But the reason I say that is because there's just so much shit, right, that like can go wrong in advertising, and almost always like they view it like, I've had a client literally say, well, I spent $200, we didn't get any clients, why would spending more money work? And it's like they underestimate. I'll tell you why all this matters is because our online space is noisier than it's ever been at any point in history, and so people simply need more repetition than they ever have. I've heard from like TV lawyers, there's so much TV station, there's so many channels, that they said when I started advertising 20 years ago, I put up a TV commercial and I would get phone calls the same day. They say now I don't even expect a return for 6 months. I expect to lose money for 6 straight months until something lands. Anyway, for that, like, be very, very careful about working with clients who don't advertise and selling them advertise, because they'll be so fast to pull the plug unless you really sit down like, this is what's going to happen. So like, it's the same thing when you sell SEO, right? It's like, at some point you have to go, hey, listen, like, you're in New York City. This is really fucking competitive, and you're 10 years behind all these competitors. Like, I can do this, but don't expect me to get you there in like, 3 weeks. Like, this is going to be a year-long fucking process. Don't even sign up for this shit if you're not committed for a year, because nobody's going to rank you in New York City 10 years behind in fucking 3 months. Nobody that's telling the truth, especially not for $99. I don't care if you got an email about it. And then you got to talk to them like, hey, it's going to be $2,000 a month. And at month 4, you're going to tell me it's not working. I haven't got any phone calls, and I'm going to show you all this progress we've made. And yes, there won't be any phone calls. Are you still willing to do that? And so the reason I say that is because in this particular client, before you even figure out what the budget is, you got to have heart-to-heart talk with them about, like, this is what advertising really is. Are you prepared to do that? Because if they're just going to be quick to pull the plug, like, just tell them to save their money. Like, it's not going to work if you just, pony up $500 timidly and say, we'll try it. Now, the next piece that you mentioned is the actual numbers. And let's say they actually make it through that, which I highly doubt they actually will, by the way. But if they do, it's useful to give them math of, like, this is what other $1 million companies in our industry pay. This is how much they spend on advertising. This is what they pay per lead. And by the way, you can find that out with research. And there's this new tool called ChatGPT that can, like, do a lot of the research for you. So, like, I would want to know, what's an average lead cost in my industry? How much do you got to spend? What's an average person worth? And start with math. Like, we got to get, our average person is worth $500. We got to get 500 of them. And it's, $150 a lead. This is how much we're going to have to spend per month, every month. And it'll be more backloaded than front-loaded because there's a figuring out process to start it. Are you down? But, like, reverse engineer the math. Like, and you really basically just need to know, like, a couple of numbers. You need to know what's an average person worth to them, right? If they're going to go from 400,000 to $1 million, that's $600,000 in people. Exactly how many people is that are required? You're going to have to know what they're going to have to spend to go get one of those people. And then you can break that down to a monthly. Let's say they got to spend $150,000 over the next 12 months. Well, you can say, hey, you're going to have to spend like 12, 13K a month to actually hit that. Are you prepared to invest 12 to 13,000 a month in advertising? All right. Gabe says, ever gotten a horrible cold DM from someone with an offer? If it was bad, did you help fix it or tell them to pound sand? I'm a bad dude to cold DM, I'll tell you that. Because either I'm going to ignore you if it's just some copy and paste shit, or if I can tell you actually wrote it, I'm going to spin it around and show you how to actually message people. Not that I recommend just, like, mass harassing people the way it's taught in our space. But I've actually had one guy I can think of. He messaged me. I rewrote his message to actually work, sent it to him, and sent him a link to a course I have on here's how to, like, actually write messages that work. And he ended up buying. So that was probably not the cold DM he imagined. In his mind, I'm going to send him, I'm going to sell my service, and then 10 minutes later he's buying my thing. And that wasn't the plan. I just said, if you want some extra help, check out this Google Doc, knowing he had this issue. But let me because, like, this is the thing that people ask me about the most, and I really wish I could make this clear. There are ways to get clients that I think are far more efficient than one-to-one messaging people. But having said that, if you are going to one-to-one message people, I want you guys to think about some principles that will never change, because everybody wants to skip to automation and perfect message templates, okay? Firstly, one thing that will never change is, like, are you messaging the right people who have a proven history of investing money in the kind of thing you sell? So just, like, if we're talking to dentists, there's a huge difference between a dentist who just started his practice 5 minutes ago, is $500,000 in student loan debt, and still needs to get his first patient, versus somebody who's been doing it 30 years, has 12 locations, a staff of 300, and has a monthly advertising budget of $45,000 per month, right? Those are very, very different people, even though they're the same industry. So if you're going to invest time and energy into messaging people, I promise you the second guy makes for a far better client than the first one. So that's the first thing. We call that getting lists, data, whatever. But most people, like, think of it as numbers instead of how can we identify the people who actually buy the kind of thing that we sell. And by the way, just that alone will eliminate 80 to 90% of the headaches that a lot of you guys experience with cold outreach. It's like you're just not even talking to the right people. So there's nothing you're going to say. Like, I compare it to, like, this is what talking to the wrong people with the right offer. It's like, let's say we sit at home, we come up with this offer, we got barbecue pork ribs, they're delicious, baby back ribs, super tender, fall apart, we got the best barbecue sauce, we won competitions with it, and then I say, all right, go to the Jewish Vegetarian Conference and go sell those ribs. right? What are you going to say at the Jewish vegetarian conference to sell ribs? They don't eat pork and they don't eat meat, and they and especially if they're not going to eat meat, they don't eat pork, right? What are you going to say? And the answer is nothing, right? So it's really, really important that we start with talking to the right people. And then here's a thing that will never go out of style, okay? Actually talking to that individual person like that individual person. Personalization, they have a name for it, but too many people, again, think about it as a formula instead of people like to talk with people who, know something about them, right? So like one might call that the way to create personalization is with a minute or two of research. Click on their profile. Who is this person? What do they do? Where do they live? How long they've been doing it? How many years? Where did they go on vacation? Et cetera, et cetera. None of it's hidden in the social media world. Third piece, by the way, sounds really simple, but like if you extend value, if you really think about your outreach itself as a give and not a take, I call this free samples, like the way Costco gives away little free samples. You're going to get a lot more people that want to talk to you instead of going, jump on a call with me and give me your time, right? Like that's what I get pitched a lot personally. So I know I'm just kind of leaving some sort of like kind of generic tips here. I got obviously a lot more detail, and I have tools that automatically create those for you guys, by the way. I've made some updates to our outreach, our Open with Anyone program, which I have my own GPTs there that they'll actually do all the research and the personalization for you. They'll find the info on that person, put it in together in my winning message templates. So if you guys are interested, you can talk to my AI assistant, say, tell me about the Open with Anyone program, and it'll tell you about it. But anyways, like this is why most people struggle with messaging. They're not talking to the right people. They're not saying the right shit. And it comes across as robotic. And even when it gets through all the spam filters, and mechanisms in place for that, it's a take. It's like, jump on a call with me and give me your time, right? If you actually know how to choose the right person, message them something meaningful, and give them something in the open email, like you'd be surprised how much better. And to give you an idea, like I sometimes do this shit where I'll send messages to 5 people and I'll get 3 of them to become like clients. Like I think of one, I did this by direct mail because I like zigging when everyone else zags, but I basically did, the same kind of outreach methodology. This was a couple of years ago, but I remember I wanted to try a new offer. So I picked 5 people that were like the most likely to buy it. I wrote them a personalized 1-page letter. We use a tool that we use a lot in real estate called Click to Mail that like will mass send and personalize, costs $1 a letter. So I spent the big $5 on marketing, and we got 3 clients from it. So there's some real magic that happens when you know how to put that kind of formula together. And so I just say that because I get asked about outreach a lot. I honestly wish people asked me better questions. You want to get better results in life, ask better questions. And I think, how do I outreach a stranger is not the best question to be asking. But anyway, since you guys ask it, I'm answering it. Nathan says, hey guys, question. What programs do other digital agencies use for project management and ticketing in conjunction with GHL? We love GHLs for automation and leads management, or looking to whether to connect it with Trello, Monday, or another program. What are other users successfully using? Nathan, the most common answer I see to that question is ClickUp. ClickUp is a project management tool that also supports some automation, and it connects with High Level. I don't know the details of how to do it, but they integrate together. By the way, this is something I kind of wanted to talk about because for those of you guys who are going through the leveling up process, your agency's growing, you're getting bigger. One of the reasons that this question is even being asked from Nathan is, if you have 5 clients, you do not need a CRM. You can get by without a project management, and you don't need to track everything, and you don't need systems and processes and all those things. But if you start getting like 50 or 100 or hundreds, like I think of people in my world who have 800 clients, for example. If you have 800 clients and you got like a team of like 50 people, everything has to be in the project management or it'll get lost. In other words, every little thing that needs to be done for every client. And it's repetitive, right? So like project management assists with the repetitive nature of it, but it has to be tracked and measured and checked. We're done ticking boxes so we can stay on top of everything. And if you don't have this at scale, like, holy fuck, will your life be hard? But what you'll find is if you get this, and for those of you guys who need help on this, for the love of all things fucking holy, go talk to Jess Cotter, because what happens is if you try and scale a chaos agency that is not documented and everything laid out, two things will happen. One is you'll be working like 80 hours a week trying to keep up with your fucking madness. And two, you'll probably actually in the middle of that have clients canceling. Three, your client results will start to suffer because you'll be on the edge of burnout and you'll just find all these little balls getting dropped. And and also, the other thing I wanted to mention, you won't be able to sell that motherfucker, just so you know. Nobody wants to buy an agency with an owner working 80 hours a week, right? Flip side of that is, when you start to get it out of your head and into the project management and everything is like step-by-step tracked, what you'll find is you're only doing like 10, 15, 20 boring things over and over. I call it a boring factory. Because it's not like you're really making new shit every day, right? Like you're doing a factory, it's mostly the same thing. In our case, there's a little bit of personalization. You know, if this client's logo is yellow and that guy's is blue, you're obviously going to change the colors to match up. For the most part, like you're doing the same kinds of things over and over. The really good agencies are boring factories. And so all of the really good agencies have some sort of project management tool where everything is tracked and measured and looked at. And by the way, I never got any of this shit for like a decade. In fact, I didn't learn it from agencies. I learned it from an attorney when they showed me their system and like, boom, I had 1,000 light bulbs go, oh, you track everything. You measure every client. You put it in your thing. That's how you guys are able to stay on top of it. Also makes it super easy to delegate because you can just say, Wendy, in project management, you're responsible for all these 50 things. And it gets automatically delegated, added to their list. They can check it. They can update you. You get email notifications. It'll tell you when people finish shit. It'll tell you when shit's behind and all kinds of things. So there's some weird lady walking by. She's like looking in my window. My neighbors. I don't really want to know my neighbors. Anyway, so about that, like this sounds like a boring question for a lot of you guys, but actually what was asked here is like a multi-million-dollar question, which is how do I measure ticketing, tracking, blah blah blah. Because again, this matters as you grow and as you scale. It's probably not a big deal for those of you guys who are like 10 clients or less. But if you want to have like a boring agency that like you can literally run a very successful agency in the stage 3 managerial stage, you know, where you're doing multiple millions under 10 hours a week because everything's in project manager and you have people assigned to those project managers and boxes are getting checked in the background. That's one of my favorite things is like when I go out with the family, the peace of mind of knowing everything that's got to be done is in project management. It's being tracked step by step by step. So anyways, I'm probably rambling a little bit about that, but I think it's an important detail for those of you guys. Once you start getting past 10 clients, like if you want to do volume, you are going to have a fuck of a time if you don't have these things in place. And like I said, if you guys are having that where you don't really trust your delivery and everything's in your head, and you don't know where to turn or what to do, like go message Jess Cotter, tell her I sent you. It'll be the best money you ever fucking spent to get your agency systematized. And she has a bunch of tools and stuff. I've been actually working with her a little bit on building them because I want to give some of those things to my mastermind members too. But we've been building tools like, for example, for you to create an operating procedure, which is a step-by-step instructions that's in your head, would probably took me 6 months the first time through. I have a tool like right now where I can do that in 10 seconds. I go, hey, ChatGPT, I'm trying to automate this process. And then it goes, okay, let me ask you a bunch of questions about it. And I go, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes, here's your step-by-step instructions. And then I give that to an employee. I'm like, here, go do what this says. And they like do it right the first time through. It's pretty remarkable. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys in this Monday goodness. For those of you guys who missed, by the way, I mentioned this before, but I got I'm building libraries and libraries of tools, resources, swipe files. I want to be for agencies where really any stage of growth, like I have tools and swipe files and things like that that'll just make your life easier. And so if you want to talk to the old AI assistant about working together, there's a link for those of you guys who are live on Facebook here. And it'll just ask you some questions about what you're trying to do. And then it'll say, this is the best tool or resource we got. And it'll direct you there. It's kind of like a library search, but it's more like for tools than books. So yeah, if you guys are interested, check that baby out. And that's all I got for you guys. And by the way, I decided after years and years, I'm going to start changing it to May the Triforce be with you, because I am a Zelda nerd above all. So may the Triforce be with you. Appreciate you guys. And happy Monday. Much love. May the Force be with you.
Buy my book, or I will show up in your dreams and read all of the terms and conditions for all that software you signed up in a quiet, whispery voice.